Well, hi there.
Hey, hey!
Looks like our paths have crossed again.
The
Super Lilly Corner.
The Super Lilly Bros corner. And we're just over here getting the pearls, putting the little weird statues.
These guys look like the dudes from like West Side Story. Better not mess with the propeller, boys.
They look like they would come at you just snapping their fingers.
Oh no, not the finger snap.
Hey, you guys are on our duff.
Good. I feel like they're all just like, yeah, that's a taste. Better not come here, we'll do it for real next time.
Yeah, just you wait. We're gonna get you guys next time around. Holy vey.
Alright.
So, I got an interesting little thought experiment for you.
Please tell me.
Well, first, I want to see, what did you think of the Daredevil TV show on Netflix?
What did I think?
Yeah.
Best superhero show of all time.
Whoa, really?
Yeah, I decided that a while ago.
So, and are you including animated TV shows in that, or is that just live action?
I don't watch a ton of animated. I don't watch a ton of live action either, but from the shows that I've seen, I think Daredevil is like not only one of the best superhero shows, but one of the best shows, period.
Yeah. I'd have to rank it up there for sure. If it's at least part of my top 3, I don't know if I'd count it as my number 1, but it's really hard to pick a number 1 when it comes to that. Charlie Cox, I just think does an excellent job at playing both Daredevil and Matt Murdock.
Well, it's crazy because it's like one of those shows where like the weakest season is still like almost like a 10 out of 10 season.
Yeah.
Like it's just so good that even like the worst part is like everything about that show is like I just don't feel like I deserve it.
Yeah, and of course the Kingpin. I forget who plays the Kingpin. But
oh yeah, that's one of the best villains in like Marvel.
Period. Yeah, just incredible. They managed to make him a little less cartoony from the comics and still be just as imposing.
Yeah.
Just absolutely fantastic. So that leads me to my question, which is, of course, you guys know that the Netflix series has parted ways with the Disney shows now that Disney Plus is a thing. The Netflix series are kind of like, oh no,
no.
Well, this is unfortunate because you can't do a thing with your cannon. You have to use a bow and arrow.
You speak too soon.
You can use that?
I don't know.
I am pretty sure you cannot use that.
Take this, Nintendo. I don't get it.
Take this, Nintendo.
I don't get it.
You got, kid. Dimbo, are you alright?
I swear to God, if you sass me right now.
It would seem Cyclos traveled across. Okay. You know what?
Wait, I'm back here now.
You're all the way back at Outset Island.
Dude. You saw me go around that thing.
I saw you go around a submarine too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I should have gone around
doing
that.
anything.
That was probably gonna have something good in it. That might have been
I can't.
heartbeats.
Hold on. Do we have like that song that you could? Of course.
Nope. You get it from him.
Oh, God. Fate, you suck.
So what I was saying was...
I guess we have time now.
Yeah, we have time to talk about it. How would you implement... Wow, look, a submarine. Don't skip over it. Or, yeah. They have good stuff in those. Whatever. They have made the Netflix shows basically, and basically everything that came before, like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and everything, are kind of like sub-canon, where they're not really part of the MCU, but if they don't contradict anything outright, they're kind of grandfathered in.
Yeah.
So if you were to implement Charlie Cox's Daredevil into the MCU, how would you do it?
I would have done it during Civil War, probably.
Okay, let's hear it.
I mean, I don't know. Like, I thought they were gonna have him anyway because I thought they still had a plan to implement everybody from the Netflix movies, shows. But I guess they just kind of forgot about him. But I mean, I don't know. How would you do it?
Well, you know why they weren't implemented in the first place in Civil War?
Money? I'm going the wrong way.
No, actually, the Kevin Feige and the guy who was basically the Kevin Feige for the Netflix shows, like, could not stand each other.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they wouldn't work with each other to create stuff. And so they kind of pushed each other out as much as possible. So basically the MCU, in large part, did happen in the Netflix shows, but the Netflix shows did not happen in the world of the MCU.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I could tell.
And it was, but that was like a big point of contention. Like, that was a thing that that they were fighting over, that basically they could not get along. And so whenever they had Disney Plus, Kevin Feige kind of jumped on it to kind of get rid of him.
I assumed it was because of Iron Fist.
Iron Fist is reason enough.
Well, I feel like after the first two, you know, Daredevil, Jessica Jones, like they just kind of started going downhill, just like slightly, little by little.
Yes.
And then, you know, by like Iron Fist and like the Defenders and stuff like that, like it's just like it wasn't worth watching anymore.
Yeah, the Defenders wasn't great. Luke Cage was good.
Season 1 was pretty good.
Yeah, Luke Cage is like the definitive 6.5 for me.
Yeah.
There was a lot that I really liked about Luke Cage, but it was somehow less than the sum of its parts.
I think it was good for like African American culture. Because I think that's kind of what Luke Cage was made for.
Yeah.
I believe. I don't really know.
Don't forget this fish. The fish is like right there.
Where?
Right behind you. There he is.
Gotta get our fish now. Gotta get the fish.
But yeah, Luke Cage had a lot to like about it. But it, like I said, it just wasn't quite all there. But Jessica Jones season 1 and all 3 seasons of Daredevil were perfect. They were perfect shows.
Yeah.
You know, I would rate Daredevil as a whole up there with like Breaking Bad and stuff like that.
I honestly, yeah, that's kind of where I stand too.
Yeah. Anyway, all that to say this. So, how would I actually implement him in? If I was gonna have to implement him like right now, like
we already have this.
Do we really? It doesn't look like it's been had. Aw, man.
Did this on the way down.
Just wasted the bait.
Can't get bait anywhere.
A lot of people say that what they should do is, since Peter Parker, spoilers for Spider-Man Far From Home.
Good job.
Since Peter Parker has been outed as Spider-Man, that he's going to get in legal trouble, and that Charlie Cox's Daredevil could defend him.
Oh, okay.
I
feel like it would be another one of those way past the point of like the peak though. Mm-hmm. Like now you're gonna include him. Like I want him included, but it's gonna be like way past like anything we've seen.
Yeah, it's and I don't know how much of everything that he represents will be pulled over. Like J. Jonah Jameson got pulled over but that's clearly like a slightly different version of him, even though it's the same actor. I love this.
Ask her out.
Just go say hey.
So, you like movies or?
Team Rocket blasting off again!
I'll take that as a no!
And this is foreshadowed in Tetra's, like, little bedroom in her ship, which is cool, the captain's quarters. But, I just to kind of wrap it up before we get into this temple, I do kind of doubt that they would actually, because that's a pretty darn, like, rough corner of the Marvel Universe. Even though I think it has room for it, I don't think the MCU is wanting to kind of go with that tone.
With the Netflix?
Yeah, with that Netflix tone in the future.
Well, I really, really miss that, like, the feeling of those.
You and I both.
Because, you know how, like, Marvel is, where, like, they're good, they're, like, good movies, but they, like, don't take a whole lot of risks. They're all, like, very, kind of, we have to be funny, we have to, like, kind of play it safe, kind of, like, they're usually kind of like that. Mm-hmm. And I feel like, the Netflix shows were a lot more grounded, and a lot more like real grounded stories about, like, fallouts of, like, the actions that might have come from, like, the movies and stuff like that.
I actually disagree with you. That's a pretty common thing to say, they aren't really trying to be, like, the Marvel movies play it too safe. Mm-hmm. I actually disagree with you on that, and with most people on that. Just for me personally, I feel like they did set a tone, and they're still kind of staying within that tone. Mm-hmm. And there are certainly certain movies that are very safe. Like, I think Doctor Strange is a safe movie, and Ant-Man and the Wasp was a very safe movie. I think there's definitely instances where I agree with that. But as a whole, especially at the beginning, obviously, but even at the end, I actually feel like doing things like Guardians of the Galaxy, or deciding to... I just mentioned Ant-Man and Doctor Strange, but even them, they do crazy stuff like really crazy kaleidoscope montages, and...
Well, I think there are exceptions to the rule.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah.
They're, like, for the most part, they usually, like, have kind of, like, their formula down, and they like to, be kind of funny. Mm-hmm. And then every once in a while, they'll have, like, a really cool idea, and that idea will kind of, like, lead the pack a little bit. Mm-hmm. Like, they'll have, like, Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah. Or
they'll have, like, Thor Ragnarok or something like that.
Yeah, like I was going to say, Guardians of the Galaxy, Thor Ragnarok, even this Eternals movie that's coming out, they're teaching you a lesson about using statues to put on switches, which is really cool. That's really good gameplay design, I just want to point out. Thank you, Christian.
That's what I have to say about that.
But, so I guess for me, like, I think it's crazy for a movie that's, quote, for the masses, to put something like Doctor Strange going on a fever dream montage. Or
yeah.
And then even with shows like Falcon and the Winter Soldier, they did not play that show safe at all.
What do you mean?
I don't want to get into it.
You mean like political stuff?
But yeah, they just went places that are not safe places for the general public. If you want to be received well. They just a lot of their movies are experimental, and a lot of their movies are press B to just drop it where it was. A lot of their movies are experimental, or they'll go out on a limb more than I feel like they get credit for. I'm not saying they do it every time. I'm not saying they couldn't grow in it, but I feel like it's an unfair criticism to say the entire MCU universe is safe.
Well, but you can't deny that there is a certain feeling when you watch a Marvel movie that's like you kind of know what's going to happen. You kind of have the same feeling when you watch one. Not everything is going to be like that, but I mean, even if you look at DC, those movies aren't good, but I feel like they have a lot more, like, something they're going for that's, like, very, very different. They're, like, you know, nowadays it's, like, a mixed bag of just a bunch of different, like, tones and stuff, but, like, I do respect that they're, like, trying to, like, do something, like, very, like, grounded and stuff like that, and have, like, really cool, like, fresh ideas that's, like, alright, you know, this probably isn't going to work out, but I like where your brain is, kind of thing.
Whoa, that was almost bad.
That was really lucky.
But that, I see what you mean, again. I'm not denying that to some degree you're true, but I think you can say, well, this is the tone of the universe. Like, just like Star Wars movies have a tone, you know? But in their little... But even then, there's variety in that tone. Like, there's a big difference between Star Wars, The Clone Wars, and Rogue One, for instance. But there's still... Like, you can still feel the Star Warsiness of both of those movies. I feel like the MCU has that tone. And that it's not necessarily, like... I'm not saying it's above criticism inherently or anything like that. I'm just saying it's okay for your universe to have a unified tone to it.
Well, yeah.
And I also think that they do have a kind of a variety to their tone. Especially if you look at the earlier ones, like Captain America, the First Avenger, and Thor Ragnarok are insanely different movies.
Yeah.
You know, Captain America Winter Soldier and Captain America the First Avenger are insanely different movies. You know? One I would classify as a superhero war movie, and the other one I would classify as a political thriller.
I'm trying to, like, find the right words, because I don't think that's necessarily what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
As far as, like, because, like, they tell a lot of different, like, stories that are, like, they're, like, very good and they're very different, but there's, like, a feeling when you're, like, watching... It's hard to describe, like, a certain feeling you get with, like, a movie and then, like, kind of the culture it creates when you watch it.
I know exactly what you mean. It's hard to put into words, but I agree with what you're saying in that, like, there is a feel to Marvel movies. You forgot your fire stick.
Yeah.
Maduku stick! So I understand what you mean, and I'm not denying that. I'm just saying there are a lot of people who can't, like... I feel like people just... There's this tendency to say, oh, Marvel movies are just generic, they're the same movie over and over again, da-da-da-da-da-da.
Well, I mean, that's people that don't like Marvel, and you know I love Marvel.
I know you do, but this makes for good content for me.
Yeah.
So I agree with what you're saying. It's almost like I agree with what you're saying, I just feel the need to put an asterisk there and say, it's not this clear cut, every Marvel movie's the same.
There are definitely exceptions.
Yeah. And I think if I were to boil down where we do disagree, if we disagree at all, is just, I would say, the exception is sometimes there are generic, extremely safe movies. And you might say the exception is sometimes there's experimental movies. When in reality it's probably like a 60-40 difference or something like that. So... I don't know. I think it's... either way, it clearly works.
I mean, it's making them money.
Yeah, and to go back to what we were talking about, Daredevil, it plays into, like... one thing in the comics that's really, really cool is, if I pick up a Daredevil comic, or a Spider-Man comic, or a Captain America comic, or a Guardians of the Galaxy comic, I'm going to get these vastly different corners of the universe, you know? But they still play together, but their tones are really different. And I do think some of that tone was lost with the loss of the Netflix shows. I think some of the more serious parts of the of the Marvel Universe has left, and I really enjoy that in the comics. I can pick up this part of the universe and it's optimistic and hopeful, and I can pick up this part of the universe and it can be difficult and hard and deal with harder subjects.
Yeah.
And I do wish that was still part of the MCU. Because I do think they lost that. So, anyway, I have more thoughts on this, but maybe we can talk about it in the next episode.
Sound good.
All right, so we'll talk about that next time on Windwaker.
Next time on Windwaker.
You know what to do.
And if you don't, ask someone.
You know what to do.
And if you don't, ask someone.